You are standing in your kitchen right now, and there is an 89-cent brown bottle sitting in your medicine cabinet that can replace 14 of the products under your sink. You walked past it this morning. You have walked past it every morning for the last 20 years. And the cleaning aisle at your grocery store has spent 4 decades and $40 billion making sure you never connected the dots. My name is Eli. I spent 34 years buying every colored bottle the grocery store sold me. Then an Amish grandmother in Holmes County, Ohio, showed me what was sitting in my own medicine cabinet the whole time. Here is the truth. One single bottle of 3% hydrogen peroxide, the same bottle your grandmother kept on the shelf in 1952, does 14 jobs. It cleans your produce. It whitens your laundry. It kills the black mold in your grout. It can replace your bathroom spray, your grout cleaner, your laundry whitener, your produce wash, your dishwasher tablets, and 10 more colored bottles you have been buying every month for 30 years. The Amish in Holmes County, Ohio, and Lancaster County, Pennsylvania never stopped using it. They just stopped telling outsiders. Before you click away, I need to tell you what I found buried in a 1928 Penn State Dairy Bulletin written by a man named H.B. Ellenberger, a document that was pulled from circulation in the 1960s, the same year the commercial dairy sanitizer industry started replacing it with $3 a gallon chlorine cleaners. And every single thing in this video applies to the house you already own. Not a new build, not a homestead you dream about, the house you are sitting in right now. The first time I walked into an Amish kitchen near Mount Hope, Ohio, I spent the first 10 minutes looking for the cleaning supplies. There was no cabinet full of sprays. There was no row of colored bottles under the sink. There was a brown bottle of hydrogen peroxide, a box of baking soda, a jug of white vinegar, and a bar of plain soap. That was it. And that kitchen was cleaner than any house I had ever set foot in. Let me back up and tell you how I got there. I spent 34 years of my working life buying whatever the commercial said I needed. Bathroom cleaner for the bathroom, kitchen cleaner for the kitchen, glass cleaner for the glass, special cleaner for the grout, special cleaner for the stovetop, special cleaner for the stainless steel. I had a cabinet under my sink so full that I had to dig through it to find anything. And every single one of those bottles cost between $4 and $9. My wife and I were spending about $320 a year just on cleaning products. That is not counting laundry. That is not counting the dishwasher detergent. That is not counting what we spent at the pharmacy on mouthwash, foot soaks, and the little things we did not even think about. Now, hydrogen peroxide was discovered in 1818 by a French chemist named Louis Jacques Thénard. By the 1940s, it was a standard item in every American farmhouse medicine cabinet. My own mother kept a bottle on the shelf above the washing machine. She used it for everything. And then something happened between 1950 and the year 2020. The household cleaning industry grew from about $200 million to over $40 billion. That is a 200-fold increase. And it did not happen because Americans got dirtier. It happened because the chemical companies figured out that if they could convince you that every surface in your house needed its own specialized product, they could sell you 15 bottles instead of one. The plain communities never bought in. The Amish, the Mennonites, the Old Order German Baptists kept right on using the broad household applications they had learned from their parents and grandparents. They did not see the commercials. They did not read the magazines. They just kept doing what worked. And what worked was a brown bottle that cost less than $1. So here's the first use. And this one alone will save you about $60 a year. You take 1 part 3% hydrogen peroxide and 3 parts water in a large bowl. You drop your fresh produce in for 3 minutes, leafy greens, berries, grapes, root vegetables, anything from the store or the garden. You rinse under cold water, you pat dry, and you put it in the refrigerator. Romaine lettuce that normally goes slimy in 4 days will stay crisp for 9. I tested this myself. I bought 2 heads of the same romaine, treated one, left the other alone. The untreated head was garbage by Friday. The treated head was still crisp the following Wednesday. That is not magic. That is the peroxide oxidizing the surface bacteria and the pesticide residue that accelerates spoilage. Now I know what you are thinking. You are thinking, if this is so simple, why have I never heard it? And that is exactly the right question to ask. Because the answer is not pretty. The answer is that someone benefited from your ignorance. Someone benefited from you throwing out half your produce every week and going back to the store. Someone benefited from you buying a $4 bottle of fruit and vegetable wash that is mostly water with a splash of citric acid. And the same someone benefited from you buying separate cleaners for every surface in your home. But the story gets worse, because the suppression of hydrogen peroxide knowledge was not accidental. In the 1920s, an English medical journal called The Lancet reported that infusions of hydrogen peroxide were being used successfully to treat a range of infectious diseases. Doctors in the United States picked up on it through the 1930s and into the 1940s, and then the patent medicine industry exploded after World War II. Penicillin became a household word, prescription drugs became the answer to every ailment, and hydrogen peroxide, which cannot be patented because it is just 2 hydrogens and 2 oxygens, got pushed to the back of the shelf and labeled as nothing more than a wound cleaner. Even that label was wrong. It turns out peroxide is actually too harsh for open wounds because it damages healing tissue along with the bacteria, but it is exactly right for almost everything else in the house. Here is the second use. Equal parts hydrogen peroxide and baking soda mixed into a paste, applied to bathroom grout with an old toothbrush, left for 10 minutes, then scrubbed and rinsed. I had grout in my master bath that had not been white since the Clinton administration. 15 years of commercial cleaners, 15 years of scrubbing, 15 years of nothing working. One application of this paste and the grout looked like it had been replaced. My wife called me into the bathroom and asked if I had hired somebody. The same paste works on the rubber gasket inside your washing machine, the one that turns black with mildew. It works on the seal around your refrigerator door. It works on the inside of your slow cooker after you have made chili in it 3 weeks in a row. The third use is laundry. You add half a cup of 3% hydrogen peroxide to a white load instead of chlorine bleach. Bleach is a chlorine compound that breaks down fabric fibers every time you use it. That is why your white t-shirts get thin and translucent after 18 months. Peroxide brightens the same way, but it does not destroy the cotton. Old farm wives in Lancaster County have laundry sheets that have been in service for 40 years. Not exaggerating, 40 years. And they look better than the ones you bought last Christmas. The reason is that they never put chlorine bleach on them. They used peroxide, and they hung them on the line in the sun. The sun is a free ultraviolet brightener that no one talks about because you cannot put it in a bottle. Use number 4. Rust stains on white fabric. Saturate the rust spot with peroxide, sprinkle salt over it, squeeze fresh lemon juice on top, and lay the fabric out in direct sunlight for 2 hours. The combination oxidizes the iron and the sun finishes the job. I watched an Amish grandmother in Lancaster do this to a tablecloth that had been ruined by a rusty pipe wrench. The stain came out completely. She never even raised her voice about it, she just knew it would work. Use number 5, your toothbrush. Once a week, drop the head of your toothbrush into a small cup of peroxide for 10 minutes. Rinse and let it air dry. The peroxide kills the bacteria that build up inside the bristles, the same bacteria that contribute to morning breath and gum inflammation. Modern dentists are starting to recommend this again, but the Amish have been doing it since their grandparents were children. Now, if you have been keeping track, you are already at $60 a year on produce, about $40 a year on grout and bathroom cleaners, another $30 on laundry whitener, $15 on rust treatments, and another $10 on dental supplies. That is over $150 a year, and we have barely started. Now, if you already own a house and you are thinking this only applies to people building from scratch or people with farms, stay with me, because this next part is specifically for you. Everything I am about to tell you can be applied this weekend in the house you already own with materials that cost under $1. You do not need a contractor, you do not need a permit, you do not need to call anyone. Use number 6 is the refrigerator. Once a month, take everything out, mix 1 cup of 3% peroxide with 1 cup of water in a spray bottle, and mist the entire interior. Wipe with a clean cloth. Pay special attention to the rubber gaskets where mold loves to grow, the drawer slots where vegetable juice collects, and the back wall where condensation runs down. The Cornell Food Science Department confirmed in 2003 that this method kills Salmonella and E. coli more effectively than the most common store-bought antibacterial sprays. Cornell, not some blog. Not some homestead newsletter. Cornell University. And yet the spray bottle of antibacterial cleaner at the grocery store still costs $5.99 and still claims to be the gold standard. That covers the refrigerator. But the dishwasher is the next worst offender, and most people never clean it at all. Use number 7. About once a month, pour a cup of 3% peroxide into the bottom of an empty dishwasher and run a hot cycle. This dissolves what dairy farmers call milkstone, the calcified protein and mineral residue that builds up on the inside of the machine and traps bacteria. The same residue that creates that faint sour smell when you open the dishwasher in the morning. The Amish dairymen in Lancaster County have been running peroxide through their milk lines for over 100 years to dissolve this exact same residue. The household dishwasher is just a smaller version of the same problem. But no appliance in your house loses you more money than your front-load washer, and that is use number 8. Most front-loaders have a rubber gasket that goes black with mildew within the first year. You can scrub it for an hour with commercial cleaner and barely move the needle, spray it with straight 3% peroxide, let it sit for 15 minutes, and wipe it clean. The mildew comes off in sheets. You can also run an empty hot cycle with 2 cups of peroxide added directly to the drum once every 3 months. That keeps the inside of the machine sanitary and removes the soap scum and biofilm that builds up where you cannot see it. Use number 9 is for anyone who keeps chickens, and even if you do not keep chickens yourself, listen to this because it tells you something important about how peroxide works. A Holmes County family I know had been losing 2 or 3 birds a year to respiratory infections. The local feed store kept selling them antibiotics for the water. The antibiotics worked for a while and then the infections came back. An older Amish neighbor told them to put 2 tablespoons of 3% peroxide per gallon of water in the waterer once a week. They have not lost a bird to respiratory infection in 6 years. 6 years. The peroxide oxygenates the water, kills the pathogens that live in the slime layer inside the waterer, and gives the birds a mild immune boost. The same principle works for any standing water on your property. Bird baths, livestock troughs, even the water in a vase of cut flowers, which is use number 10 and will keep your flowers fresh for nearly twice as long. Use number 11 is sanitizing your cutting board. After cutting raw chicken, raw beef, or raw fish, scrub the board with soap and water as usual, then spray it with full-strength 3% peroxide and let it sit for 2 minutes. Rinse and dry. This kills the bacteria that the soap missed. The USDA's own Agricultural Marketing Service document from 2015 lists hydrogen peroxide as an approved antimicrobial agent for food contact surfaces. It is in the federal record. They know it works. They just do not advertise it because there is no profit in a product that costs 89 cents. Use number 12 is for seed germination. Soak vegetable seeds in a solution of 1 teaspoon of 3% peroxide per cup of water for 30 minutes before planting. This softens the seed coat and kills any surface pathogens. Penn State extension materials from the 1940s documented this practice, citing increased germination rates of 15 to 30% depending on the crop. The Amish gardeners I have spoken with say it makes the biggest difference on older seeds, the heirloom varieties they have been saving for generations. A seed that has been in a paper envelope for 3 years can still wake up if you give it the right signal. Use number 13 is sanitizing your sponges and dish rags. Drop your kitchen sponge into a bowl of peroxide for 10 minutes once a week. That sponge under your sink is, according to multiple food science studies, the single most contaminated object in your house. More bacteria than your toilet seat. A weekly peroxide soak resets it. Use number 14 is for your bathroom toilet bowl. Pour half a cup of peroxide directly into the bowl, let it sit for half an hour, then scrub with the toilet brush and flush. It removes the ring at the water line, kills bacteria, and eliminates odors without the chlorine fumes that make your eyes burn. And before I tell you about use number 15, the one I found buried in the research, I need you to understand what all of this has cost you. The average American family of 4 spends, according to a 2022 consumer spending report from the Bureau of Labor Statistics, approximately $640 a year on cleaning products, laundry additives, mouthwash, foot care products, and over-the-counter antiseptics, $640 every year for a lifetime. Over a 40-year adult lifespan, that is $25,600. If you had taken that money and invested it instead at a modest 7% return, it would have grown to over $140,000 by retirement. $140,000 gone. Spent on bottles of colored liquid that do, in most cases, exactly what an 89-cent bottle of hydrogen peroxide does. That is not a small theft. That is a generational theft. That is the down payment on a house. That is a child's college tuition. That is the difference between retiring at 65 and working until you die. Now, before I give you the buried secret, I have to share 3 details the Amish families in Lancaster and Holmes and Geauga counties have refined over generations. These are the details that separate someone who dabbles in hydrogen peroxide from someone who actually replaces half their cleaning cabinet with it. The first is temperature. Nobody talks about temperature when they talk about hydrogen peroxide, and it is the single biggest reason people try it once, get a mediocre result, and go back to bleach. Hydrogen peroxide works faster and deeper when it is slightly warm, not hot. Hot destroys it. I am talking about room temperature around 70 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. The Amish women I spoke to in Millersburg, Ohio, in the spring of 2023 told me their mothers always pulled the brown bottle off the shelf about 20 minutes before they planned to use it, especially in winter when the bottle had been sitting in a cold pantry. They would set it near the wood stove, not on it, just near it, until the glass was no longer cold to the touch. Then they would use it. Cold peroxide on a cold counter is sluggish. Slightly warmed peroxide on a room temperature counter is a different chemical entirely. The bubbling is faster, the lift is faster. A 1989 study out of the University of Wisconsin Food Science Department found the kill rate on bacteria can be up to 40% higher when the solution is at 68 degrees versus 45 degrees. 40% from a temperature change of 23 degrees. The second detail is contact time, and this is the one almost everyone gets wrong. Hydrogen peroxide is not a wipe-and-go product, it is a let-it-sit product. The label on a bottle of commercial disinfectant from 1954, which I have a photograph of from an estate sale in Pennsylvania, specifically instructed the user to apply the solution and allow it to remain wet on the surface for a full 10 minutes before wiping. 10 minutes! Today, people spray peroxide on a counter and wipe it off in 15 seconds, then wonder why it did not work. When Sarah Yoder, a 68-year-old grandmother in Holmes County who agreed to speak with me on the condition I not photograph her, cleans her butcher block, she sprays the 3% solution, sets a kitchen timer for 10 minutes, and goes to fold laundry. She comes back, wipes it with a clean cotton cloth, and the block is done. No streaks, no smell, no residue. 10 minutes of patience replaces $20 of commercial product. That is the trade. The cleaning companies bet you do not have 10 minutes. They bet you want instant, and for the convenience of instant, you pay them every year for the rest of your life. The Amish bet on patience, and patience is free. The third detail is the cap. The cap of the brown bottle matters more than you think. Hydrogen peroxide degrades when exposed to light and air. That is why it comes in a brown bottle in the first place. Brown glass blocks the ultraviolet wavelengths that break the molecule apart. But that little white plastic cap is doing more work than people realize. Every time you open the bottle, oxygen rushes in and a small amount of peroxide oxidizes into plain water. If you leave the cap loose even a little, you can lose up to 15% of the bottle's strength in a single month. The Amish I spoke with in Lancaster County keep 2 bottles in rotation. One is the working bottle, used daily, with the understanding that it is slightly weaker. The other is the reserve bottle, sealed tight, kept in the back of the pantry, used only for medical applications where full strength matters, like a wound rinse or an ear infection compress. Mary Stoltzfus, whose family has farmed near Strasbourg since 1842, told me her great-grandmother taught her mother that 2-bottle system, who taught her 4 generations of a 2-bottle system just to make sure the bottle worked when it really had to work. 4 generations. That is how long the Plain communities have been guarding the use I am about to give you. Everything I have recovered on this channel, every method, every document, every technique is gathered in one place in the description below. It is called the Amish Home System. Now stay right here because what comes next is the part I built this entire video around. So here is the story. In 1928, Penn State University published a dairy bulletin written by a researcher named H.B. Ellenberger. Ellenberger had spent years working with Lancaster County dairymen, many of them Amish and Mennonite, and he had documented something that was making the commercial dairy industry deeply uncomfortable. The Amish dairymen were producing raw milk with bacterial counts so low that the state inspectors could not believe the numbers. They tested them again. They tested them a third time. The numbers were real. The reason was a practice that had been handed down in the Plain communities for at least 2 generations before Ellenberger wrote it down. The Amish dairymen were rinsing their milk pails, their cream separators, and the lines that carried milk through their spring houses with a dilute solution of food-grade hydrogen peroxide. The peroxide did 3 things at once. It dissolved the milkstone, the calcified protein and mineral residue that builds up on any surface that touches raw milk and traps bacteria in a biofilm that no amount of hot water can break through. It oxidized the surface bacteria directly, killing them on contact, and then, because peroxide decomposes into nothing but water and oxygen, it left no residue behind to contaminate the next batch of milk. 3 problems, 1 substance, 89 cents a bottle. Ellenberger's bulletin circulated quietly through extension offices and farm bureaus through the 1930s, 40s, and 50s. Then something changed. In the 1960s, the commercial dairy sanitizer industry, companies selling proprietary chlorine-based and quaternary ammonium cleaners at $3 to $5 a gallon began expanding aggressively, and the Ellenberger bulletin got pulled. It was simply withdrawn from circulation. The Penn State Archive still has it, but the extension offices that used to hand it out to farmers stopped handing it out. And by the 1970s, an entire generation of dairy farmers had been taught that you needed a specialized commercial product to do what their grandfathers had done with peroxide and water. One Amish farmer in Lancaster County, a man named Elam, was cited repeatedly by milk inspectors in 1983 for having anomalously low bacterial counts in his raw milk. They questioned him. They tested his equipment. They wanted to know what he was doing. He never told them. The practice had become a quiet inheritance, passed from father to son, kept inside the community because the community had learned that when outsiders found out about something useful, the useful thing usually got taken away or made illegal. Here is the part you can use this weekend in your existing home for under $1. This is use number 15, the one that does not appear in any modern guide, and the one I promised you at the beginning. Take any plastic food storage container, glass jar, baby bottle, water bottle, or thermos that you have been struggling to keep truly clean. The ones that smell faintly off no matter how many times you wash them, the ones with the cloudy interior that no soap will fix. Pour in 1/4 cup of 3% food-grade hydrogen peroxide. Add water until the container is half full. Cap it loosely, do not seal it, because the peroxide will release oxygen as it works. Let it sit overnight on the counter. In the morning, rinse it 3 times with hot water. The container will be cleaner than the day you bought it. The cloudy film will be gone. The faint sour smell will be gone. The invisible biofilm that has been growing on the inside surface for months or years will be gone. This is the exact same principle the Amish dairymen used on their milk lines, scaled down to the containers in your kitchen. It works on coffee thermoses that have decades of buildup. It works on the baby bottles your grandchildren use. It works on the plastic pitchers in your refrigerator. It works on the water bottles your wife takes to the gym. And it costs less than 10 cents per use. And it is not just the money you have been losing, it is your health too. A 2019 study out of the University of Bergen in Norway followed over 6,000 women for 20 years and found that those who used spray cleaners regularly, even just once a week, had a measurable decline in lung function comparable to smoking 20 cigarettes a day for 20 years. 20 cigarettes a day. From spray cleaners, hydrogen peroxide, used properly, diluted with water, has been shown in multiple occupational health studies to produce no such effect. None. Because when peroxide breaks down, it breaks down into water and oxygen. That is it. There is nothing left in the air to damage your lungs, nothing left on the surface to absorb through your skin, Nothing left in the drain to poison the watershed. The Amish did not know about the Norwegian study. They did not need to. They had 3 generations of women who used the brown bottle and 3 generations who used the new products. And they could see with their own eyes which group coughed in the winter and which group did not. There is one more historical detail I want to leave you with. In 1928, the same year Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin, a German chemist named Walter Oblath published a paper in a small medical journal in Vienna documenting the use of 3% hydrogen peroxide as a treatment for ear infections in children. His success rate in a study of 142 children over 18 months was 87% resolution within 72 hours using nothing but a few drops of warmed 3% peroxide in each ear twice a day. That paper was cited fewer than a dozen times in the next 50 years. Penicillin became a global industry worth billions. Not because penicillin was better for ear infections, in many cases it was not, but because penicillin could be patented. Hydrogen peroxide could not. The brown bottle had been on pharmacy shelves since 1894. No one could own it, no one could mark it up 4,000%, and so it was very deliberately forgotten. The reason no one tells you any of this is that there is no product to sell you. There is no brand. There is no patent. There is no shelf space in the cleaning aisle for a generic brown bottle that already costs less than $1. The chemical companies cannot make money on something that has been public domain for 200 years. So they invented $40 billion worth of specialized products to convince you that you needed something more complicated. And the Amish, who never watched the commercials and never read the magazines, just kept on doing what their grandmothers taught them. You are not crazy for feeling cheated. You were cheated. You spent 20, 30, 40 years buying products you did not need. Nobody told you. Nobody was going to tell you, because the entire economic engine of the household cleaning industry depends on you not knowing. But you know now. If you are the kind of person who believes that real knowledge has been quietly pushed aside to protect someone else's profit, you already know what to do next. You walk into your kitchen tonight. You pull out that brown bottle. You start with the produce soak, or the grout paste, or the overnight container soak, whichever one you need most, and you watch what happens, and you tell your wife, and you tell your neighbor, and you tell your kids, because if you do not tell them, they will spend their adult lives buying the same 40 bottles of specialized cleaner that you finally stopped buying. Now here is what I want from you. Leave a comment below and tell me which one of these uses you are going to try first. Is it the produce soak, the one that took my romaine from 4 days to 9? Is it the grout paste, the one that brought 15-year-old grout back to white in 10 minutes? Is it the overnight container soak, the one the Lancaster County dairymen kept inside the community for over 100 years? Tell me. I read every comment, and I want to know where you are starting. And if this video gave you back something that was taken from you, subscribe to the channel. Not because it helps me, because it puts you in a group of people who are quietly recovering the knowledge our grandparents had and our parents lost. Next week, I am going to show you what the Amish do with white vinegar that nobody talks about, including the one application that completely replaces fabric softener and saves another $80 a year. You do not want to miss that one. Remember the brown bottle, 89 cents, the same bottle your grandmother kept on the shelf above her washing machine in 1952. The same bottle the Amish grandmother in Holmes County uses to clean her butcher block tonight. The same bottle sitting in your medicine cabinet right now, waiting for you to finally understand what it can do. You were never supposed to forget. Someone made sure you did, but you remembered, and that is the part that matters.